Well, all right. This is Luther Thrift again. And I used to take boatloads of people into the Okefenokee. I worked at the Okefenokee Swamp Park when I was a teenager, and then I went back in the year 2000 and, I don't know, 14 or 15 more years altogether. But one thing they would always ask me about, first thing was usually the water. Why is the water so dark, and is it nasty? And I would explain to them that it's the largest freshwater swamp in America, and it's all rainwater, and at normal times you can just reach down with your hand and sip it up because it has got a lot of tannic acid. And if you know anything about tannic acid, you know it kills bacteria, and it also makes it taste like tea. And one of the reasons it tastes like tea is because we got so many bay leaves that go into the water, and besides the others. But anyway, it's in the tea family. So the English always told me it tasted like what the woman say one night. She said, "Tastes just like unsweetened tea," and which I guess it does. I'm not much of a tea drinker. I'm a coffee drinker because I hadn't really gotten over the Boston Tea Party when we quit with the tea and started drinking coffee. Anyway, besides the dark water, they want to know about Trembling Earth. And on long tours, if I could, I always tried to carry them out to somewhere around Mud Lake where there was a good bit of Trembling Earth. Now, Trembling Earth is nothing but floating vegetation. You get a lot of gases down in the swamp, and every year as the leaves constantly falling in the water, they go down to the bottom, and they start gassing up things, and after a while it gets so thick down there that the gases will come up, and when the gas comes up, it will break up hunks of that peat, and that peat will float to the top. All right, in a little while the grass is growing on it, different bushes, weeds. Sometimes you find small trees, and it won't be but a couple of feet floating on top of the water. And you get out on it. If you've ever walked on your mattress or on your bed and played when you were a child, it's kind of the same sensation. You have to be kind of careful how you walk, and there's a little trick or two to walking on it, but you can walk, even a heavy person can walk on the Trembling Earth if he knows what to do and how to walk. And I won't get into that because that would be giving away a tour guide's secret. Anyway, it's as you walk on it, it starts going up and down, and sometimes it will. I have stood in a place and get it, say, 10, 15 feet out from me. If you'll start just kind of going up and down on it, and directly you'll look, and out there you'll see the little trees and the bushes will be waving at you. And that is an experience. But every now and then you fall through, and that's where you want to really get good at walking on it so that you don't fall through, because there's all kind of things up under there. Mostly fish, but gators get up under the Trembling Earth, and I guess snakes run up under it, but mostly everybody fears the gator. They don't want to get gator caught, and if you've ever seen a gator catch something and hold on to it when his jaws lock onto it, you don't want to be gator caught either. So best thing is either be sure you're loaded with adrenaline if you're going to get in a gator race, which I guarantee you will help you, especially if you look back there and you hear her going right about 3 feet behind you. That adrenaline, boy, I mean, it will pump in. But of course, if you can get to a tree, you can always get away from the gator. The best thing to do is just don't bother the gator. Let him lie there. Just observe him and don't bother him. Of course, that's the way with most wild of Pharaoh stuff. But the land of the trembling earth, the Indians, the Okefenokee is actually, it goes back to the Creek Indians, which the Seminoles came mostly out of. We get into that another time, but stay on the trembling earth. Okefenokee literally means, in the Muskogean language, I guess you might say, land of trembling earth. I think Okie means water. Some say, well, it's trembling water. Well, if the earth is trembling, the water's trembling too, so you got both of them trembling. But it is an unusual experience, and it's kind of a fun experience, but it's something that you can remember the rest of your life. The first time you step on trembling earth, and the first thing you want to do is, some people go barefoot. Now, I used to do that when I was younger. As a teenager especially, I didn't mind getting out there barefoot much, but I'm not a barefoot person. I got tender feet. But anyway, there are snakes, and cottonmouths is one of the worst ones we got in there, and he will be on the trembling earth sometimes. Rats make nests. We used to have one that I never saw one in my lifetime. Uncle Hampton's used to talk about them. They had a golden mouse. Really a mouse, I think. I don't know how big he got, but Uncle Hamp Mazzell used to talk about him. Aunt Rhodey Barber, Rhodey Mazzell Barber used to tell me a lot of her daddy's stories. And but there's a lot of rats and rabbits. We got swamp rabbits. Now, if you most everything around here, everybody talks about Peter Cottontail. Well, we got a lot of Peter Cottontail, but we also got one that's got a brown tail, or almost dark, a little darker than brown, called a swamp rabbit. And that booger can swim now. I've seen him swim. And he will make his bed right in a pond up on a tussock. Now, if you don't know what a tussock is, it's more or less anything that's higher up than the water. Usually it's an old cypress stump or an old pine stump that's up out of the water. It's a little mound. But people used to take their squirrel dogs in there sometime and go in those ponds and let the dogs swim around and see if they can find them, get them a rabbit to run out. But he can really swim now. Don't take my word for that, but he has more trouble with getting away from the hawks, and I guess the gators too. But of course, rabbits have more trouble with the hawks. And tonight, Mr. Owl. And Mr. Owl is more deadly than any hawk to me, because it's common sense. If you can hear a hawk flying in on you, you got time to do something maybe. But an owl, you never know when. You don't know an owl's after you until you feel his talons in your body. And so I think when they talk about Mr. Owl being the greatest rat catcher there is, I think they pretty well come close to the truth. And, my favorite owl is a barred owl. I think he hollers more, but the great horned owl's pretty. Barn owl, all owls are pretty, but I love to hear them holler. And the screech owl. I caught a screech owl one night side the road. I was coon hunting, and I caught a screech owl. And I should have had gloves on, but it didn't matter. I don't think gloves would have mattered too much, but I didn't hold on to that screech owl very long. Matter of fact, I think I began trying to turn him loose time I caught him. Because that little old beak that he's got, that booger's sharp. But anyway, the land of the trembling earth, nothing like it. And when you get into places like Big Water and all, in the Minnie's Lake, you can get off there to the side and you'll say, well, doggone, here's some land. Of course, these old signs, there's some terra firma. And they step on it, and it's terra, but it ain't firm. Or as firm as they think it is. But it is an experience. And if you go to the Okefenokee, try to take a trip where you can, if you want to see some trembling earth, ask about them. Most of them's got a little for the trip, even on Swanee Canal and Billy's Lake. I think you can get a tour up into there where you can see a little bit of Trembling Earth. But that would probably make your trip to see the Trembling Earth in the Okefenokee.